Hi, this is Universal Missionary, and I just want to take some time to do another video today. And I am really interested in talking about voyages on this particular video. And this video is going to basically compare and contrast what crew members you can use and how effective they will be on your voyages, and just talk about how I do voyages and techniques on how to do them. And then, of course, the if I believe the forums or the Star Trek timelines has some tips on how to also do voyages. And of course, it's pretty self-explanatory to do voyages on Star Trek timelines. They have changed somewhat over the years, or not over the years, but over the months since it's been started. And I just finished the voyage here just a couple of hours ago, and I'm interested in wanting to share the results with you, so that way you can be able to know what I got and how effective things are. And so let's go ahead and get started. Jump right into that. For starters, voyages are a great way to pick up honor, and a great way to pick up chronotons as well. And so the object of the game is to last as long as you can on a particular voyage and pick up as many of the items that you can without running out of antimatter. Okay, and of course, in doing so, you gain rewards from the voyage itself. Okay, and to be able to maximize your rewards, of course, you must get the best crew for that particular voyage. Voyages change over time, and voyages basically are determined by the kind of ship that will get you the best bonuses on that particular voyage, plus the kind of crew that will best fit into that particular voyage. And the thing is that they are determined also by the sum of the skills that all of your crew members combined bring into that particular voyage. Okay, and as you can see, the summary here, I'm going to go ahead and go over the summary because the summary basically tells you what you can expect on that particular voyage throughout the entire time that you're on. And so every time that you experience a dilemma, or every time you experience a a hazard. I think it's a hazard, not a dilemma. A dilemma is something that occurs every 2 hours. It tests your ability, and we'll go over that later. But your hazards come every 90 seconds or so. And so the thing is that depending on what your particular skill is that is going to be highlighted, and also go over that here in just a minute, that will basically let you know how many times that is going to occur. And so, as you can see, the two highest skills that are being put into question for this particular voyage were diplomacy and science. And so I put my diplomacy high enough to where I could do very well, and then of course my science was only about 6,000, I believe, on this one. And so it reflected, and so I ended up losing about 21 of them. And of course, the voyage almost lasted 8 hours, and so I almost got there. I didn't obviously involve dilithium in it because, once again, we're playing the game for the purpose of maximizing rewards without having to spend. Okay, that being said, if you're playing for and using dilithium, you stand a better chance of getting better crew over time. And when you do a 20-hour one, I mean, you can expect to spend about 600 to 700 dilithium total in refueling your ship and And the thing is that every time you refill your ship, you'll end up spending more. And I kind of find that ironic. I find that a little bit bad. Because think about it. I mean, it's not a very sound thing. A sound uh, thing to do, because I mean, it's kind of like saying, okay, you know what? I'm driving, 350 miles on a tank of gas, and I'm paying $35 to fill up the gas tank, and then I'm paying $50 to do the same thing somewhere else, and in a sense, I mean, that just doesn't make sense. I mean, if you're driving around in the U.S. and of course you're doing that, yeah, I mean, it's more expensive in some places, but in general, I mean, if you're driving, let's say in the state of Texas, which is where I live, Texas is pretty big. The prices are pretty close to being consistently the same throughout the state, and so with that in mind, I'm like, okay, why is Disruptor Beam making you pay more dilithium for the voyage? And I guess at the end of the day, the only rationale I can think about it is that you're going to end up spending more time coming back. And I'm like, but if you're going to spend more time coming back, I mean, it's not really logical, to say I drive 1,000 miles and I pay 700 dilithium and then I don't pay any at all to come back. I'm like, I just think it's a little bit silly, isn't it? But I mean, that's just kind of my thinking. I'm not trying to be negative about it. I think it's still a great thing to do. I mean, it's a great way to pick up items. I think that you can pick up, probably, if you're really on top of it, you can probably pick up, I would say about 500 honor per voyage on a good voyage, possibly 1,000 if you can do 2 per day, but you really got to be on top of it. And then of course that means that while you're sleeping, you got to get up and just simply solve your dilemma. With that being said, going back, we're looking at the skill checks. This one had 29 skill checks. I passed 25, and this one had 33 command skill checks, and I passed 20 of them. Science was 83, I passed 62. The med skill, 27, and I think that's where everybody's really going to have a lot of trouble. I think most people are going to have limited medical crew. Diplomacy is always going to be the best one because of the fact that most everybody has diplomacy. But here's another one where I ended up, not doing so well at all, and that's engineering. Engineering turns out to be one of the lowest skills as well, 11 at 32. And so the rest of this, the rest of these don't really matter. So I'm going to go ahead and claim, and then we're going to go ahead and start a new voyage. So on this one basically, if you look at the screen here, the bonuses with this particular voyage indicate that, number one, you have to have high engineering skills. And you also have to have high command skills. And that will really help you significantly on your voyage. But you also need to have a hydrogen ship. And this is really not really going to be exciting because of the fact that, number one, I do have a max tier level hydrogen ship, but the problem with that particular ship is that it's only a 4 stars. So there are other ships that have antimatter, and so what you want, of course, in a particular voyage is you want to have the most antimatter to start with. Some of these when you choose the correct ship for a voyage, okay, that is going to boost the amount of antimatter available for that voyage. And so I'm going to try to point to that ship right now. And here we go. So this one has a bonus of 150 antimatter that you can have if you choose a hydrogen ship. But of course, your 5 stars are going to have 2,500 if they're fully maximized. And so let's just say, for the sake of argument, we're going to go ahead and do the NCCC, the ICC 1701, the Terran ship. And so we're going to choose our crew now, of course. Okay. You also want to try to have, the best amount of the highest skills for every category. I mean, but it's up to you if you want to have just the highest skills on two, the silver and the gold. And so let's talk about that really quick. Your gold tier is the one with the skill that is going to be tested the most on this voyage. That means that from what the website was saying is that this one is going to be tested around 35%. But you can look at the video, and you can look at the video. You can actually do a calculation, and you can find out what the actual percentage is based on my actual voyage that I have here on YouTube. And so all you have to do is add up all the numbers, and basically that will determine the total number of hazards that you experience, and then of course the total numbers for that particular gold skill divided by the total number of hazards. And so that will actually tell you the true percentage for that voyage. Of course, you would have to do a number of these and average them out in order to figure out an average percentage that would work best for you. And so the silver one is the one that gets tested the second highest, and this one is in command. And then all the other ones, according to the website, those have approximately a 10% chance of occurring. But I tend to notice that those happen quite often, and probably more in frequency than the 10%. The website, I believe the website is just simply in this Star Trek timelines, and then under Voyages. I think there is some commentary on that, and so that's what I'm referring to. But I think that it happens more than 10%. So let's start choosing our crew. Okay, so usually by default, I try to choose the characters that have that are already immortalized. I have 8 immortalized characters, so all of them are going to go onto this voyage, simply for the sake of having the overall best stats. I mean, even if they don't have the skills that are going to be highlighted, they'll add to the overall stats of the voyage. So I have the Borg Queen, so the Borg Queen is going to have both command and engineering. I usually have Picard here because he has the highest command as well, almost second highest command, excuse me. And then we're looking for people that are going to have command and of course engineering. So here I'm going to use Ducat. He's close to having 5 stars, so he's also inspiring. So when you choose the character that fits the wording at the bottom of each particular slot, that person is going to add 25 antimatter to your ship's voyage total. So the thing is that here this character is going to have a lot of command as well, so that's going to help out. But he also has a lot of diplomacy, and so that helps out. And so how is that determined? I mean, how are the stats determined for each crew member? And of course, that is determined, of course, by 2 factors. Number one, the actual skill level that the character actually has, and that is based also on your level of the character, plus whether he is fully fused and, of course, fully equipped. And so having that So having a character at 99 is really critical to have, and having him fully immortalized is even better. The other thing, of course, is the proficiency that the character has. So on the proficiency level, that is determined by the average of the lowest to the highest proficiency. So we're talking about the low end plus the high end, divide that by 2, and then you add that to the skill level that the actual character has. So that's how these numbers are determined for each skill. And this one is also looking for romantic characters, but we're also looking for someone that's going to have high engineering. So I could use Data, but Data will have his own place later on, and so this one is going to be based on using O'Brien. So since I want to have the highest engineering, we're going to go with O'Brien. Here, because of the fact that we have high command and high security, we're going to go ahead and use Kortar. And then for this one, we're going to go ahead and use we have a couple of ladies here, but we also want to add some command as well as your engineering. So this guy is going to have that available, so that's going to help us out here. And with this one, we're going to put Data on there because he's fully immortalized and fully fused, so he has a tremendous amount of engineering. And then I happen to have this character over here, which helps out tremendously as well, because he has the command ability as well, so that will add to his command as well. Cyberneticist, I don't have anybody that has the ability to perform in that area, so I'm going to go ahead and use Surak because, like I said, I'm trying to bulk up the high ends. I'm trying to bulk up every skill, so that way we have a minimum amount to work with. For me, that's always going to be medicine. And then we have Jadzia, and she'll probably be the last one that's going to help me on the engineering end. So there's that. And as you can see, we're almost to 6,000, so maybe I might want to work a little bit on that. And then we have, let's see, Bones McCoy, but I'm going to go ahead and put him over here under civilian because he's an actual civilian, so you want those bonuses to be factored in there as much as possible. And so, as you can see, right now, if I make no modifications, I'm really short on several areas. Number one, I'm short on command, which you want to get it up to 8,000. I have determined, or not, I have seen or observed that for every 2 hours that you last on a voyage, you need to have a minimum of 2,000 points on that particular skill level in order to be able to pass the hazards that occur during that. So on the second hour, you need to have, anywhere from 0 to 2 hours, you must have a minimum of 2,000. 2 to 4 hours, you got to have a minimum of 4,000 minimum. And then 6 hours, by the time you get to 6 hours, I believe you have to have 8,000. So it's kind of loose, it's not quite 2,000 for every 2 hours, but by the time you start your 6 hour, you have to have 8,000. And so a lot of people really want to have those skill levels. And people's magic goal oftentimes is 6 hours, 8 hours. You can determine what you want for you, but what I'm trying to say is that what you want to do is you want to try to have implements of 2,000, 4,000, 6,000, 8,000, so that way you stand a good chance of actually winning. So let's try to see if we can change a few of these characters, because we really do want that engineering. Do pardon me for the slowness here. And so, well, so I can see right now that it's going to be a little bit difficult to try to find that. So I just need to find somebody that has engineering somewhere. And one thing I can try to do is I can try to get rid of someone that doesn't have someone that has a slot that doesn't have engineering. So I think I can try to change that. Yeah, and so this is kind of complicated. I think at the end of the day, Scott is possible, but that's still not going to give me 6,000. Let me see if I can try to add something that's going to add. Okay. Alright, so here is probably the best choice I can make. I forgot the caretaker, so I can probably work on the caretaker, but that's really going to put me at ends here. I'm not even going to have 2,000. That's really going to be bad. Or I can try to go with, let's see. Oh my goodness. We can do with that. Then that's still not going to get you what you're looking for. I'm still thinking, so bear with me just 1 minute. Okay, so at this point in time, this balances out a lot of things, and so this is going to ensure that I balance out at 7,000. 7,000 command and 7,000 engineering, 8,000 diplomacy, 7,000. So this should help me last until about 6 hours. With my minimum skills at 3,000 for science and medicine. So that helps out quite a bit, but we can go ahead and consider. Let's see. See, and I wish I could choose Surak, because really, I mean, he's one of my 5 stars, and they almost always go in there. So that's really a good idea to do that. But in this particular case, I'm just not really getting the other skills met, and so I'm just gonna go ahead and go with that, so I can have the highest engineering possible. Okay, so let's go ahead and do our voyage. I don't know if you guys name your voyages. I don't know if you name your ships, but I used to do that, but then I don't anymore, just simply because it takes too much time. So that being said, let's talk about one last thing, and then we're done for our video today. And probably the most interesting advice I can give you is on these voyages is try to make sure that number one, you don't let your ship run out of antimatter. Unless you have dilithium or money to pay for a failed voyage, you're just simply going to end up losing out. Try to stay on top of it. The second thing, of course, is that on your voyages, there is a chance, of course, that you can decide the outcome of a particular dilemma. Every 2 hours a dilemma comes in, and based on the choices that you make, you can get specific outcomes that will influence your voyage. Now, there are certain parts to a particular dilemma, so if you choose the correct path on that dilemma, it will open up a continuation path to the next dilemma, a part 2, so to speak, that will allow you to choose and allow you to get better rewards, or possibly even one of these special characters that comes out of the game. There are 4 special characters. There is Thoughtgore, there is Lucian, Fierce Guinan, and then there's Colonel Worf. There may be more, but based on the choices that you make, and you can find the pathway to each of those choices in the actual Star Trek Timelines Dilemma. When you go on that website, it'll tell you which one to choose, and it'll allow you to be able to choose that. But it's important to note that during your dilemmas, if you're only gonna be good or long, if you're gonna only last long enough, 6 to 8 hours, it's really difficult to allow your voyages to get to those kind of outcomes. I mean, you're only going to have 3 or 4 chances, 3 or 4 dilemmas to work with based on doing a voyage without paying for dilithium or refills. So that means that your choices in the matter are going to be minimal. So it's going to be a little bit difficult for you to get the items or characters that you're looking for from that particular voyage. But I wish you good luck on your voyages, and I hope that you get the characters that you need. From experience, the longer you last on a voyage, of course, the better your rewards get. I've seen characters, 4-star characters, come in as early as 4 hours, and I've seen voyages where 2-star characters have been the norm the entire time for up to 8 hours. So at the end of the day, it's important to recognize what to do. There are 3-star characters that come in, and once you know what dilemma it is, you're pretty much going to know what you need. So this is a great way to pick out 4 stars. They do come in not too often, but you can get some really good items from this as well. You get replications, and then of course chronotons and credits as well. So this is it for me today. Thank you very much for watching. If you liked this video, subscribe, like it, and then thank you for watching. This is Universal Missionary. Have a great day.